Chris Marler joins us, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. Chris, talking about mowing the lawn, do you mow your own lawn or do you pay someone to do it?
Man, I really want to lie, so I sound like more of a man and say I do it myself. But we are currently living in Atlanta in an apartment. So we're moving to Baton Rouge in a month, and then I will be cutting my own grass. I can't wait.
Okay.
You cut it with your shirt on or off?
Like Eddie-O.
We're about 10 years past cutting it with the shirt off. I will say that.
But beer in hand, right? I mean, you got to have a beer in your hand when you're cutting your yard.
Yeah, I mean, without a like, there's like nothing quite like the post yard cutting or post yard work beer. That is like a top 3 beer. I feel like.
Yeah, it's there, and the sense of accomplishment.
Airport beer, shower beer, post yard beer.
No, I think yard beer comes ahead of airport beer.
Okay,
unless it's vacation.
I'm not a big
airport
beer guy.
Say again.
I'm not a big airport beer guy. I don't know why. I've never really gotten super into it.
Well, when Chris travels, he's traveling.
Well,
for work.
I mean, if you're traveling for like vacation, that's one thing. But if you're traveling for work, it's just another day at work, So I'm with you. But if I'm headed to like Turks and Caicos and I'm there for the 6 a.m. flight, bring me on a screwdriver or Bloody Mary, something.
I was going to say,
with alcohol in it.
I saw a video of this guy that was, I guess he had an 8 a.m. flight because he had 5:57. He had a beer. People were making the rounds on that. Chris, football-wise, we're 2 weeks out from SEC Media Days. You kind of had some football news this weekend with guys like Taylen Green, Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier at the Manning Passing Academy in Thibodeau this weekend. There's so much turnover within SEC quarterbacks. What are you expecting this year of that position and some of the more notable guys, including the guy here in Fayetteville?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing going into it, like I put out my quarterback rankings, which was not my idea and it's completely against my will. Hopefully my boss isn't listening, but I feel like he knows that sentiment because there's just nothing that gets people angrier online, it seems like, outside of politics than a quarterback ranking in June or July, really. So, looking at that, there's so many new faces. And what's weird about this one is, this is the first time where you have all these new faces, and every single one of them, it feels like, or at least, majority of them have, like, massive, massive expectations. I think the biggest thing I expect from this year is one of the names that we're hearing about that hasn't got a ton of playing time yet or is very early in their career, one of them is going to underwhelm us by a lot. Because that's what happens in this league with first-year starting quarterbacks. And I'm not saying it's going to be Arch or anything like that. I will say that the Lagway stuff with how much praise he's getting, and I think he's a great quarterback, him getting so much praise as a top 3 to 5 national player, especially over Lenore Sellers, I think is ridiculous. I love Taylen Green. I've said it since last year against Oklahoma State. He is a human highlight reel, and he feels like must-see TV most of the time that he has the ball in his hand. The biggest issue, and it was the thing that reared its ugly head from day one against Oklahoma State last year, which is you got to take care of the football. I mean, eight total fumbles last year was top 10, or one of the 10 most from any quarterback in the country last year. Lost 4 of those. If he can just take care of the football a little bit better, I mean, Arkansas can be dangerous.
We had Archie Manning on with us Friday, Chris, and one of the things that he spoke to us about is the position, like you got to be cerebral of sorts, and some of those were on the offensive line. Don't want to put that all on Taylen, but I mean, how much do you think he can improve being under Bobby Petrino in year 2, just knowing the position, knowing the checks, and frankly, just not fumbling the football like you're talking about?
I mean, so it's not like he's far off. I mean, like you said, there were still moments last year where it's like, they were able to look at the Auburn game and the stuff he did athletically in that game, especially. I mean, he is a top tier athlete at that position. And I keep saying this. Everyone that keeps writing him off is, oh, he's not that great. The numbers aren't that great. I mean, he was top 3 in the SEC in total yards per game. Like he can do both. He's going to get, kind of pigeonholed as just a running quarterback that throws, which happens a lot, I feel like, this day and age. But he's going to improve, I think, passing. Just tell me a quarterback that ever did poorly under Bobby Petrino, especially with multiple years under him learning the offense.
Yeah. Chris Marler with us here on the Morning Rush. Chris, from a hot seat type perspective, and I hate asking hot seat questions, but let's look at it from this angle. Who has the biggest burden to deliver this year? Who is coaching for their job and their future in their program this year? If you had a 1, 2, 3 in the SEC, who would that be?
I mean, I don't. You guys are talking about when I was coming on here firing people in Arkansas. I feel like Pittman's in that conversation, and I hate it. Listen. I am not going to pretend to have my finger on the pulse of everything going on with Arkansas football. I just know that since I've been covering this league, watching that guy come in and replace and kind of turn around what happened under Chad Morris and doing so quickly. And I think a lot of people probably thought this thing was going to fall apart completely the moment that KJ left, right? Like, and all of a sudden, and you have this like mass exodus with the transfer portal. I think he's done a great job. I think if he leaves, in my opinion, I think it'll be on his own accord. I wish he had a lifetime contract. It is hard to make SEC fans pull for anyone that's not their own, and I feel like he is a universally loved coach. That's all I'll say about Pittman. The hot seat stuff, I think, that is most interesting. Napier finally got off of it, and deservingly so. We were talking about him being on the hot seat for his 2024 schedule in the summer of 2023, and I'm glad that he was able to stave that off and stick to his guns and do a great job. I will say that schedule doesn't necessarily get a lot easier this year. I don't see a massive influx of talent that they somehow are keeping secret down there in Gainesville. So if he somehow, like the expectations I feel like might be a little bit too high from that fan base, he could be back on it. The big one is Hugh Freeze. And this guy has gotten a very long leash at Auburn strictly because of how much that fan base and administration hated Brian Harsin. And he has underperformed flat out. He's done a great job recruiting this past year. He's done a great job in the portal. They have given him all the resources. I know he has some health issues, which is not anything he can control, obviously. But the big thing for me is you don't have a landmark victory besides maybe the A&M one a year ago, which I don't know if that counts in the minds of Auburn fans. The biggest thing is you come out of the gates with Baylor, A&M, Oklahoma. Those are two of those games are on the road, and you've got I think all three of those might be on the road, and that's your first month of September. If they go 2-3 with Georgia and Bama still staring them in the face, I feel like the fan base is going to get pretty restless. Yeah.
Flip side of that, beyond Sarkisian and Kirby Smart, Texas and Georgia, who's the safest? I mean, those two are pretty obvious. So let's pick up the conversation from there.
I think Beamer is a guy. He just got an extension last year, which I thought it was pretty well deserved. That was a weird thing going into last year. I mean, covering them for Locked On and hosting the Locked On Gamecock show. Going into that last year, it was like everyone from the outside, national media was like, "Oh, Beamer's on the hot seat. Beamer's on the hot seat," and everyone close to that program from jump was like, "No, he's not. He's like, barring something catastrophic failure." I think he's fine. Him and I think Clark Lee is another one that feels like they're pretty safe. I'll tell you one that I probably should have brought up in the aforementioned question about who's on the hot seat. I think that Stoops at Kentucky is gone after this year, whether it's his own decision or Kentucky's. I don't see anything improving for that program right now, and it does kind of feel like that's a program where like the luster has been lost a little bit from, hey, we're not just a basketball school. Like we compete in all these other sports too. We went to the College World Series, and we got our football team has won this many games or whatever. That doesn't feel like it's as fun right now for that fan base, especially after what happened last year.
Tommy and I were kicking around last week, Chris, and by the way, we're talking with Chris Marler, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, about Kentucky and kind of what they'll be willing to invest from the revenue sharing, which I guess begins tomorrow with their football program. Like, in your opinion, should each SEC institution establish minimums for what you have to spend in football, basketball, baseball? Or how do you think starting tomorrow and from here on out things are going to go within this league?
I cannot believe we're out here talking about socialism right now, Todd. You want everyone to spend the same amount. You told me there'd be no politics, and here we are. No, I'm obviously kidding. I don't think that they are going to be able to control what people spend. I think it's fascinating because the number that the NCAA has even put out there, which they're expecting, is between 73 and 77%, which would be around $15 million for football, and then you'll have around 10 to 15% for men's basketball. But there's a lot of programs that have other really, really good, like teams and sports that they want to invest in. I look at LSU, especially like being a little bit closer to them now and covering that. Like, that's a team that had, I think, 8 total spring sports that were ranked in the top 10 at one point in April. They are obviously going to invest a lot in baseball. South Carolina is a great example. They are going to invest a lot in women's basketball and also in baseball because of how bad last year went. So
Oklahoma with softball.
Oklahoma with softball is a good one. So that's a different one, I think, a little bit, only because Oklahoma softball has been so good that I think that I might see them put 100% of their revenue in football at this point after what happened last year. But I do think it's interesting because how they're going to spin that on top of the NIL stuff and the collectives that are not going to go away necessarily. I think that'll be fascinating to watch. I also think what you're also going to see is a little bit of a step back into transparency, away from transparency, where they're not going to tell us what they're spending on certain things. I think you are going to see some stuff that is, below the table as opposed to, above the table now. You're going to kind of go back to some of these shadier type deals, I think. And you're starting to hear some of that. I think the big thing that's fascinating too is someone, I'm not saying the SEC, but somewhere, someone is going to invest a way, way more into a niche sport that no one else will. And we're going to see like Bama in the 2010s or North Dakota State type thing where they won like 9 titles in 10 years. We're going to see that in like some ridiculous sport like water polo. And I think that's going to be pretty funny.
I mean, you're kind of talking about above the table, below. How in the world would you cheat now? And who's going to enforce it? I mean, people talk about, the rules, this. What rules? I mean,
right.
Rules don't matter if no one's enforcing them. So, I mean, we can post a speed limit sign. If no one's got a radar gun and no one's in a cop car, then it don't matter. That's kind of how I see things right now in college football particularly. There are no rules.
You're completely right. And it's super weird when the NCAA shows up and wants to pretend like they're a parent again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like them showing up and being like, oh, by the way, it's like the eligibility stuff that's kind of gone through. And it's also, it's very, very evident that the moment they were not able to benefit off of it, like be the primary benefit off of it and have things go exactly the way they want to, is the moment they just took their ball and went home, and then everything changed at once, which is the main issue, is that everything happened all at once. But I think you're right. There's nothing really that's super illegal or off the table. But I will also tell you that if there is a conference and programs in a conference that will find a way to figure out how to cheat or do things a little bit
SEC.
Yeah, it's the
That
SEC
just means more.
for sure.
Chris, it just means
Exactly.
All right, Chris.
So,
Go ahead. All right, we'll leave it there, bud. Sorry, we're running out of time. Chris Marler, ESPN 104.5 Baton Rouge, LouisianaSports.net, co-host of the Fourth and Ron Pod, and also a host of Locked On South Carolina. Chris, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks at SEC Media Days in Atlanta.
Sounds good, boys.
BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season right around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From MLB, UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline. The game starts here.